Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful day with us on Live with Lloyd. I am your host, astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn. I have some interesting episodes with some of the shows I do. Well, this is one of them. But for those of you who see, I have the most exciting guests when it comes to the higher mind, the higher sciences, and I'm glad to say I have with me Audrey Rumbers, who is a quantum physicist. She's a quantum metaphysician. It's a totally different ball game. But let me say this for those of you who missed it. Today is a Monday. It is October the 12th of 2022. The sun is in Libra. The moon is in the sign of Cancer. I don't know why I've got Taurus, but that happens. It's a 1/7 universal month. It's one universal week, and it's hold up. There's now this is very, very interesting how I did this. Okay. Anyway, let us forget that. I don't know how that happened with that, but anyway, I do want to bring on my very special guest. All righty. Audrey, how we doing? Oh, hold on. Audrey.
Yeah,
Audrey. All
I'm
righty. How
here.
we doing?
That's
Okay. First of all, it's so interesting how this has worked out. But at any rate, I want to say, and what's so amazing
my goodness.
is all of these. Do you have? Is that your calls? Because I
I'm
have
sorry.
something.
No, I just heard.
Okay. Now, Audrey.
Can you? Yes. Are you frozen?
Who, me?
Sounds like you're frozen. Yeah.
Okay, Audrey, I'm back. You
Is
know,
it my
Audrey?
phone? I'm not. You back?
Yeah,
You
I'm
sure?
back. I'm trying to figure out what's happening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what we're going to do with this show? We're going to do a refresher on um we're going to do a refresher coming up this Wednesday also. So although it's today, we're going to talk about some of the things we do. But let me ask you this. You are, as I asked you before, a metaphysician. And how did you get
A
started with this?
quantum metaphysician. Okay. I my title that I gave myself is quantum metaphysician. Right. So that's a
Yes.
combination of quantum physics because those are the areas that I study the most in their relationship to each other. So that's how I came up with that title. Quantum physics is something that a lot of people are afraid to even think about studying because it sounds so hard, and I understand that. So I try to give the most fundamentally simple explanation or definition of quantum physics so everyone can kind of get a grasp of what we're talking about on its most fundamental level. And basically, quantum physics is the study of very, 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 very small things. And when they study things at such a small level, which is the subatomic level, the laws of classical physics breaks down, and things get very and things that should not be able to happen do happen at that level. So basically what we're saying is that when you look at a person at their most very, very fundamental level, at the smallest level of any person, that the laws of physics break down. And we do some very weird stuff on that quantum level. And it's about trying to find that quantum level of what happened quantum level and on the macro level.
Here's my question to you. How did you get started? How did it lead you down this path to get into metaphysics? You know, for those of you, see, you've been on twice before. And so some may have heard it, but I'm sure since
Mhm.
my viewership has grown since then, for the first time, is what led you to get into this at Wayne State, to be involved with CERN, which we're going to explain all those things. I think it's amazing.
Yes, well, it basically happened because I got a job at Wayne State University. I was looking for a higher position, and there was a position open in the physics department, an administrator. I had no idea what the research was, but I knew it had to do with quantum physics. Because I didn't have to know quantum physics, I was like, okay, well, I guess I could do. But when I got into it, I got into a world that I never expected to find myself in, much less to take the information and the experience and actually do something with it, myself. And so when I got there, what it was is that it's a international collaboration of quantum physicists that are doing quantum physics research at CERN in Geneva, Switzerland. And that research is they created a machine. It's the largest machine ever built. It's called a Large Hadron Collider, or an LHC for short. And that is I sent you a picture of an aerial view of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. CERN stands for the European Organization for Nuclear Research, and it is the place where they develop the internet. So it's that type of science that's going on there. And this machine that they built is groundbreaking, something we've never done before, going into science that we've never really experienced before. As a matter of fact, I consider quantum physics to be like spirit science, because now we're getting into things that we can touch. And that takes us to a whole another level of science and of understanding.
Well, here's the thing. You had talked about the fact of this area in Switzerland. And in fact, you were actually part of the team around the world. You were in the Alice team, I do believe. Is that what it was?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So
My
you
sister was
describe this
there,
area.
and
Tell
he
us
was.
what we're looking at.
I'm sorry.
I
Oh, there
just
you
said,
go.
yeah, tell us what we're looking at now.
Okay, so that is a aerial view of the Large Hadron Collider, and it's 17 miles in circumference, and it's built like 600 feet underground. And this is the largest machine on Earth, and it's built to collide the smallest particles ever. So it's kind of a contradiction, but it's not.
Um, but it seems to be so interesting to build something, yet so big to get something so small.
Yes, as originally they were saying they were looking for something they called the God particle, or its scientific name is the Higgs boson particle, and it's like that was the fundamental particle, like the fundamental building for everything that we see here, every uh, um, any material, anything that we see that's physical. And they found that particle on July 4th of 2012. It's like they found that, but that was just the beginning. It's gone much further than just finding the Higgs boson. I think the scientists got the Nobel Peace Prize, or the Nobel Prize in Science, I think, for finding his Higgs boson in 2012. And it's
I
amazing that all of these things related. I'm sorry.
No, no, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Well, because a lot of things are coming together, them building the Large Hadron Collider and doing this type of experimentation. 2012, everyone was excited about that year for so many things that were happening, the changes and things like that. So a lot of things have happened in this world that a lot of people may not have seen or noticed, but a lot of things have changed since they created this machine, since they turned on this machine. And this machine is very, very important to everyone and in our reality. And I think that's something that we have to understand, that this isn't something about just science. This is about us. This is about our everyday lives. And from what I can understand, what I believe that they've changed things in our lives, whether we know it or not. But that's going down a little bit further down the road.
But here's the thing, Audrey. You would think that they would build such a huge, and I think you said it's one of the largest scientific machines in the world.
No, it's the biggest machine ever built, period.
To just find a particle that's invisible to the naked eye?
Yeah, so it's not that quite that simple. they're doing much more than that. But that is what they say to the public, just to give us something to keep us quiet. I guess I don't know. I don't understand why they really don't explain how deep this machine and what they're doing get, and how it could possibly affect the world, all of us. And I believe it has affected us, and that's something I would like to talk about.
Well, that's what I wanted to find out. What would be the whole purpose of building something so big to find something invisible to the naked eye, and yet keep it under wraps? I mean, it's such a huge machine. When you look at just this one section of the machine, you can see to the bottom left a little bit a man. You can see how huge this piece of machinery is. And you said this is only a fraction of it.
Yeah, that's just a part of it. Yeah, that's like one detector. So
That's
you have the
one.
Alice detector, you have the CMS detector, you have the LHCb detector, and the Atlas detector. Those were the four original ones, but they have built on other connections to that as the years have gone by.
Now, you said you worked in the division for Alice, and Alice was the acronym again for what?
A Large Ion Collider Experiment. So it's just funny that the acronym comes out to say Alice, spells out Alice. And when you're going into quantum physics, you are going down the rabbit hole for sure. No doubt about it. You're going to places you never thought you would go, or and see things you never thought you would see.
Well, it's so ironic when you said that you would never see things you can see, because you can't see it anyway. So it's
Yeah,
now,
we'll
now
see
let me
things happening.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Uh, I didn't hear you.
No, you said, but okay, here's the point. Once they get to that point of that, they find this, whatever they're looking for, then what's next? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because it's like I say, that's a very simplistic way of talking about quantum physics. But here are the main things about quantum physics. There are quantum physics concepts that affect you that you may not realize. There are like there are two core concepts in quantum physics that are kind of like mind-blowing, and it changes your whole concept of everything. One of them is quantum superposition. And what that means is that on a quantum level, something is not in just one position, it's in all positions at one time, which sounds really, really crazy, but that's the fact of the matter. That is what happens. When you go on a quantum level, everything is everywhere until you look at it, until you bring your consciousness to it, until you observe it. That's when it becomes, or wherever it is, where you think it's going to be, that's where it's going to be. And that sounds strange. I know it does.
Yes, it does.
It does, because it's really saying that at a quantum level, there is a consciousness there. And it determines, because if you're not looking at it, and there's a experiment called the double slit experiment, they call the granddaddy of all quantum physics experiments, which caused all of this hoopla and caused this new area of study to be created. And the double slit experiment showed that a particle can be one thing, and then if you look at it, it can turn into something else. I can show you that experiment, but anyone can just look up double slit experiment. They'll show you the animation of what scientists did, and it's mind blowing, because you have to say, if that's true at that level, what does that mean for me at a macro level? Because it's still me. So how is this all working? And those were the things I had to figure out once I started understanding what quantum physics was about. I had to get these core concepts together in my mind so I can understand what exactly we were talking about. And it's kind of like you can be two things at the same time. You can be up and down in the quantum world. You can be up and down at the same time. And we think, that how is that possible? But there are ways to be able to visualize it on a macro scale, which I find it helps me to understand it, better at this level. The other thing is quantum entanglement. And with their experimentation, everything is connected. Nothing is separated. We're all connected by this one quantum field. And that, again, is something else that can change your whole thought of reality. What is this reality and actuality, and what is my part in it? Because so many times we see ourselves as so small and powerless, and we think, this big world and everything is happening in it. What can I do? But quantum physics lets you know that you are much more powerful and much, much larger than you think. It's just how you perceive yourself, because quantum physics mostly is about perception.
Maybe that's why they keep quantum physics under wraps and make the word sound far, far bigger and complicated than what it really is. That's almost what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
I think that's...
I can give you an example.
Go ahead. No, we had a glitch. Go ahead. Continue, please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to say is that I can think about myself, my life experience, how my life has changed and how I see things since I started understanding this notion of quantum physics. And if it weren't for that, I would never have thought that I had the ability to change the world by creating pyramids. But because I understand who I am and who we all are in this big scheme of things, it all depends on what you think you can do. And if you know that you can do something, you can do it. And when it's something as big as changing the world, people are like, what do you mean? How do you mean how can you change the world? I said, because I feel like I can. Because I feel like the energy is out there and all I have to do is tap into it. And from my perspective, I have changed the world, right? I've changed the world. Other people on the same vibration level that I'm on, they've changed the world. We've all done it together, but we've done it individually. We're one, but we're many in time. And that's what quantum physics is about. Seeing the commonality of all things instead of our differences.
Well, let me ask you this. They talk about this so-called black hole. Does that have a relationship to quantum physics too?
Absolutely, it does. I know when I first started to study quantum physics and understand what we were doing, I would go into my boss's office when he would, get back from being out of town or whatever, and I have these questions for him about things that I had heard on the internet. And one of the things I had heard on the internet was that we were going to create a black hole and that it could possibly just suck the entire world into it and we'd be done. And when I heard that, that kind of freaked me out. So when I went to work and I went into my boss's office and I said, this is what I heard. Can we create a black hole with this machine? And I'm expecting him to tell me no, like, get off the internet, Audrey, But instead, he said, well, yes, we can. He says, but if we did, it would only, what did he say? It would be so small that it would burn itself out in a fraction of a second. Now, I'm saying to myself, that's not the answer I'm looking for, because now you're saying that there's a possibility that it could happen, but you're saying this would happen. I'm like, but in science, you never know.
Yeah,
So a
true.
black hole is a thing that's so mass that anything that gets to a certain too close to it just gets sucked in. It just gets sucked in. The gravitational pull is so strong that it will suck even a plant, a star, a planet can get sucked into it. And so they were saying we could create something like that, but saying that we really didn't. So yeah, black holes has a lot to do with quantum
And
physics
in
and what we're
fact,
doing.
Audrey, this is an artist
Yeah,
rendition. Can you explain that more about being
yeah.
sucked in? What does this mean from this artist rendition of black hole?
Yeah, as you can see, that white part, you see the white part, which is part of that sun right there, and it's pulling it, and it's like got too close. And once it got in, you see it at the end of it, getting into the vortex of this spiraling black hole. And it's like once you get caught in, it's like being caught into a riptide or something like that, where once it start pulling you in, there's no coming back. It's just going to pull you all the way in. So that black hole can pull in that entire sun to its center, and then it goes through it. Now that's a rendition of what happened with a black hole. Honestly, we don't know what happens when you go through a black hole, because we've never had anything go in and come back out. Until recently, another breakthrough has happened, but that's another weird part of this
Ho,
scenario
ho,
that we're
ho.
dealing with.
What do you
But
mean?
officially,
Go ahead.
well, because officially, if you look on Wikipedia, it will tell you that nothing can escape a black hole once it's entered it. Nothing. It's just too much a gravitational pull. Only a few years ago, me an article where they found that a black hole that had absorbed a star a few years ago observed it. It started spewing stuff back out now. And see, that's not supposed to be able to happen. Black holes do not spew out things once they suck it up. Once they eat it, it's gone. So what's going on now? You see all of these new things that are happening in our reality that we were told were not possible. We're finding a lot of things are possible and a lot of things are changing.
Well, question. Who is this distinguished gentleman?
That would be Dr. James Gates, who is a theoretical physicist, and I talk to him because now he talks about the holographic universe. Well, he doesn't talk about the holographic universe. I talk about the holographic universe. It's a possibility that we're living in a simulation. All right, that this isn't quite real. And so if you're going to say something like that, when people say, well, that's the same thing, we're in a simulation, this isn't who we really are. Well, if you say that, then you have to have some evidence of that. And Dr. Gates has evidence because he found computer code embedded in super theory, meaning computer embedded in nature, in the fabric of our reality. In nature, he found code, which is crazy, because what would computer code be doing embedded in nature, in our reality? Because as you being a numbers person, Lori, numbers are very important, but I think we don't understand how really important they are, and how they factor into our actual reality that we live.
So now this is what this illustration of a hologram. So can you explain that as a spinoff of what Dr. James Gates was trying to explain, or lead people
Yeah,
with?
yeah, exactly. So you'll see there's a base, right? And from that base, there's a projection. And so the what we're living in is the projection, right? It's projecting from a base. So that's our universe. Just imagine our universe is a projection of something, but it's not real. And I think we should be able to understand it more, because more and more they're coming out with virtual reality games. And you'll see the kids have on these headsets. And if those headsets put them in a whole different world. It takes them out of this world and puts them in a whole different world. And they're interacting in that world, those things, but it's not real. It's not real. But for them, it feels real. They
Yeah,
see these things, interacting with these things, and this is just as far as virtual.
no, I've seen people with those headsets walk into walls, bump into people. I mean, it's, I would think
Yeah,
looking at it, that would never happen to me. But obviously, with those headsets on, it brings them in such a other state that they think they're really in there boxing, whatever the
yes,
case is. I just think it's phenomenal. So is that's what this so-called metaverse is about now that
exactly,
we
exactly, exactly. That's a more refined version of virtual reality. So we're once is that's what I'm saying. The things that we're doing with virtual reality, it kind of can let you see how this entire reality that we're in, that we think is real, could also be a virtual reality situation or environment. And so then the question becomes, well, who has on the goggles? If this is a game, or this is a simulation, and we're not the real people, we're just avatars of some sort, who's playing the game? And that's the thing that's can take you so far down the rabbit hole,
but
there's
it's
so many.
almost
I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say it's almost scary. It's almost like saying, am I in the real world, or or I don't know I'm in the real world, but I'm in an alternate world. That's almost what you're saying. No?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And how do you know this is real? How do you really know that this is real? It's just like when you're in your dream. And when you're in your dream, that's just as real as this is when you wake up, right? It's just as real until you wake up. So why can't it be possible that you can be in another state of reality and not know it? Just you don't know it when you're in your dream that you're dreaming. Well, sometimes you can, but you know what I'm saying. And then
Yes.
why can't you be in this waking dream and not know it? Even sometimes when you're dreaming and then you'll wake up, you think you're waking up and you're out of the dream, but you're still in the dream. Well, that's the kind of way this is, and this quantum physics is, like I say, I consider quantum physics to be spirit science. This is not your everyday science, particles and molecules. No. This goes on a whole nother level. What exactly is this reality that we're in? And the Large Hadron Collider is the machine that they're using to really test the boundaries of this reality.
And for those that may have missed it, that is what this large collider works. I mean, this looks amazing. It looks like it took them forever and a day to build this thing, and that's just a part of the machinery that we're seeing. And then when you see, to the right, you see two guys there by the ramp going onto it. A gentleman that looks almost like an ant. It just tells you how huge this thing is to find something that's actually invisible to the naked eye. It's such a paradox.
Yeah, and to even think that you can come up with the concept of building such a machine, it's really incredible. We're living in incredible times, and things are happening that some people are aware of, other people aren't. But I think it's time for us to start talking about what's the possibilities of why these things are happening and what's really going on here. We need to start thinking on a different level.
And as for Dr. James Gate, now you met him one time briefly, right?
Yes, I did. Now, unfortunately, when I met him, I wasn't all into quantum physics. I was working in the physics department, and we would have speakers come in, different physicists and even astronauts and things of that nature, and give a speech on what they're doing. I knew he was a physicist, but I had no idea how I would know him later, because it wasn't until later after he had come and gone, it's been a couple of years, as a matter of fact, that I was looking into what brought me to Dr. Gates was I was looking into quantum physics and ancient African symbolism. Right. And I was looking at the Adinkra symbols. If most people understand those are symbols from West Africa. And you have the Sankofa symbol and those other symbols from that group. I know a lot of people are familiar with them. And I said, there's something in my spirit. I said, there's something about these symbols that are related to quantum physics. I didn't understand how, but I knew there was something. I just knew it, because I'm finding these connections with the ancient technologies and ancient writings that sounded very familiar. So I just Googled it one day. I just put in quantum physics and Adinkra, and here pops up Dr. Gates. And I'm like, what? And it was funny because what he found, for some reason, he made a connection between Adinkra's and quantum physics, and he gave something he developed. I'm not very, sharp on what it was. You can look it up, but he called what he found. He said it reminded him of Adinkra symbols. And that's how I found this black man in quantum physics. I mean, I've known him, but I didn't know him back then. So if I had known now what I knew, back then when I met him, we would have had a totally different conversation. I think it was kind of like, hi, how are you back then? But when I found out what he was into, what he was working on, it just blew my mind that an African American man would be the man who would come up with this correlation between African symbolism and quantum physics. Not that he's the only one, but I'm just saying, quantum physics, he's the one.
And so the Adinkra symbols of whatever you were saying, can you describe what that is?
Well, they're different symbols from ancient African tribes. What I loved about the reason why I say Sankofa, because that symbol was a symbol that meant something to me. And the symbol means reaching in your past to what it's like reaching in your past to help your future or something of that nature, which I felt like I was doing. And there are different symbols. You would have to look them up. It's so many things I can't quite remember, but it's very interesting symbolism, and I love it. And I know that there's different deeper meanings to all of these symbols and things. They're like surface meanings, and then there are deeper meanings to them, just same as with the Egyptian symbolism. So it depends where you are, what you're going to see. Because most people, I'm sure, would not think about quantum physics when they looked at those symbols.
Well, question, are there, in other words, although they're quantum symbols, are there quantum numbers? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I'll tell you, Lord, I came up with a theory about this because I've been into this a long time. I've studied a lot of things from different areas. And one of the things that had me fascinated is this idea of a holographic universe and what would it be based on. And like you said, numbers are so important in everything, right? And numbers are important in computing. That's all it is. And so I've started to imagine, like, when you think about there was a game put out in like 2014 called The Sims. And The Sims is a simulation game. And it's basically a game
right here.
you pretty much you're playing.
This is it right here that you're talking about, right?
Yes. That's the game. And a lot of young people will remember that game back in 2014. I remember my niece was obsessed with that game. She would go to work and come home, and all she would do is be on the computer. I'm like, what is it? What is this game? And when she described it to me, I said, that sounds like you're playing God. It sounds like you have these people, you interact with them, you give them personalities, you give certain things, and then you kind of let them live their lives. And I said, wow, that's weird. I said, So that's like playing God. And I thought about the fact that that environment is created with two numbers, 0 and 1, right? 0
Yeah,
and 1 is
that's
the binary code for all computing. And even though we don't understand how it happens, those zeros and ones creates this whole environment, this whole computer environment, the colors, the characters, everything is just code. It's just code. And it's like, okay, so if the Sims, if we could create a universe called the Sims, whereas we are the God, and we tell the people, what to do and things of that, we're going to set them up. Then
mhm.
what if on a higher level, we are a simulation like the Sims, but instead of 2 digits to make this reality, like 2 digits to make, you only need the 2 digits to make the Sim, the digital reality there that we interact with. What if, and this is just my hypothesis, what if to create this reality you need a 9-digit code, i.e. 9 numbers? You need a 9-digit code that can be switched and swatched. You know how many different ways can you switch different codes to create this reality? But then the codes are related to melanin because melanin overlays it, because melanin is everywhere. Melanin is in the cosmos. Dark matter is melanin. Those two things, to me, this is my hypothesis from all of this I'm studying. There's something to this. There's something to it. And I'm saying we need to look at this and try to understand exactly what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that everything that's happening, we control it, but we just don't know we control it. We don't know it. And we've been trained to think that we're not in control because there is a God, a higher source, or something of that nature that's controlling it. But what if, and it's just a what if, that higher source is actually us? And I know it sounds weird, but if you kind of like give yourself a minute to think about it, just what is it? Suspend disbelief. Just do a what if hypothesis and take all of your preconceived notions of what you think is and just put them aside for a minute. Don't throw them away. Just put them aside so you can be able
Yeah.
to imagine a different scenario.
I think people would be blown. I think they would be like in for a rude awakening. I just think it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's very empowering. It's very empowering. And the proof is in the pudding. You can say a lot of things, but if you put it to the test, which I did over and over and over and over again, because it's so unbelievable. And if you're going to start saying something like that to people, you better be sure of what you're talking about, because people
No, I know
will
how
laugh
people
at you.
are.
They will make you think, better know your stuff
Yeah, because
and
people
be able
make
to
you
have the
question.
evidence to back it up.
Yeah, because people will make you question
Yeah.
yourself. But in fact, these are the quantum numbers as you explained it, right? So can you explain some of it again?
Yeah. Okay, so now let's go back a little bit, because this is about my hypothesis, right? Because I said to
Hmm.
myself, now if there are 9, if I'm thinking there are 9-digit code to everything, what is the code? Where's the code? How do we find the code, right? So then I started thinking about our DNA. Our DNA. Now DNA is a very, very unbelievable thing that goes on with your DNA. In our DNA, we have 4 molecules, and they start with ACTG. I'm not going to say the names of the molecules because I don't quite remember them offhand, but I just remember the letters. And I remember the letters because it's like acting. It's like the word acting is like ACTG. So that's how I remember, those are the 4 codes, those 4 and a U, because sometimes you, so we got 5 numbers, 5 letters, let's just say, just 5 letters. That's 5. I say, okay, that's 5. That's part of the code that makes everything, because our DNA codes for proteins that creates everything for that our body needs. So that's 5. I said, but if that's only 5, so that can't be the whole thing. Where are the other? What's the other part of the code? Where is the other part of the code? And then that's when I thought about quantum numbers. What's quantum number? So when I looked at, guess how many quantum numbers there were?
How many?
4. 4 quantum numbers and 5 DNA numbers. I don't know what you want to say, because I'm just saying ACTG, you can convert those to numbers, right? In the letters in the alphabet, A would be 1, C would be 3, T would be whatever that is. And you know, so you can convert those to numbers. So in my mind, I'm thinking of those as numbers. That's 5 numbers there. And then there's 4 quantum numbers. So I'm saying if we learn how to convert the quantum numbers into real numbers, like you convert the letters into numbers, somehow we get the code. Now, this is, this is my hypothesis in progress. It's not tight, and but a lot of things tell me that I'm on the right track, because I just look at smaller things and scale them up. You know what I'm saying? Like I look at the Sims and how that's put together. So I said, well, if that's put together on 2 and you're making it like that, in order to make this 3D world that we have out here, you might need a lot more, the codes, a little more longer code for that. And that would be the 9 numbers. And it was amazing to me, because see, that's what I'm saying. I get these downloads, or I get these, I don't know, synchronicities that says you're on the right track. Because right before we came on, I was looking on TikTok, my favorite app right now. And I just turned it on, and the guy says, he was so excited. He's like, oh my God, I found, what did he say? It's frequencies of music. The Sophicio, oh gosh, what did he say? People who are in music know what this is about. The Sophicio chords. He says there are 6. He says, but I just found out there's 3 more. What's that number again? There are 9. And he says those 9 sounds create those 9 chords create all the sounds in the universe can make. All you need is these 9 chords. I said, there it is. 9 again. That 9. And he said in a circle of sound, and it's this complete circle. Any sound that you hear, it's going to have one of these 9 chords in it. And it was something new that he had found out, that there were 3 more. So I'm like, there's the universe saying, yep, that 9, yeah, that's right. That's the foundation of it. So it's like you just keep, even though we're in this simulation, we keep getting little hints, little clues that, what is this really? Is this really real?
Yeah.
And you have to, either you're gonna see them, or you're gonna just ignore them, because your mind just can't comprehend that could possibly be.
Well, it almost sounds like nothing short of incredible when you think about all that you talked about since you've been on.
It is incredible. We're all incredible. Everything's incredible, but we just take it. It's like I used to ask the question: if everyone is a genius, if everyone is working at a genius level, is there any such thing as a genius? Because if everyone is working at this level of genius, geniusness, then it becomes common.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just normal. It's like, oh, you can do that also? Everyone can do that. But really and truly, what we're doing is really amazing. But because everyone can do it, we think it's not amazing. Our bodies, what we do is absolutely amazing. Just in our everyday. I'm not talking about some, great scientific mind. I'm talking about just every day. If you think about what you do, you'd be so fascinated with yourself, you wouldn't be able to stop thinking about yourself and what you're doing. Why am I doing it like that? And how did I do that? And, but we just do it. We just do it. So it's like, what? There's nothing. But really, it really is big.
I think it's amazing. And there was one thing you also mentioned about dark matter or melanin. Can you explain this?
Yes, that's what I was saying, because I'm trying to figure out how is this reality created? What is it? And so I try to look for the fundamental things. What's in common? What's everything that's in common? Everything, something everyone has in common, or everything has in common. And one of the things I found is melanin, because melanin is everywhere and it's
And
in the
it's
cosmos. I'm sorry.
yes, and it says melanin guide to spiritual awakening, which is interesting.
Absolutely. See, that's the metaphysics. That's what I'm saying. Quantum physics and metaphysics, they're two peas in a pod. They really are. And a lot of people who study quantum physics, they don't want to deal with metaphysics. And a lot of people who deal with metaphysics, it's not that they don't want to deal with quantum physics, they just aren't familiar enough with it to think that it could be anything they would be interested in, or find some, can learn from, because they're spiritual. But quantum physics is spiritual. It's a spiritual science. So, you're still on the same track.
And they even took a passage out of the Bible, Psalms 18, verse 11. He made darkness his hiding place, his pavilion around him, darkness of water, thick clouds of sky. And what's interesting, even underneath, according to the late doctor of psychiatry, Francis Cress Welsing, MD, and well, the doctors rather, and Richard King, MD, the black color of melanin allows its chemical structure to absorb, store, and generate light and sound energy. The ability of blacks to absorb the most sunlight allows black to have a higher level of perception and the highest ability to communicate with the spiritual world. Now, this is very interesting because I had a Eugene Braxton on that had a near-death experience that said the
Mhm.
same thing about the spirituality of 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 uh, of us as melanated people, which I think is interesting.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And the further you go back, the more you see that melanated people were the foundation of everything. So that's what I'm saying, because everything seems to come back to one something. It's just like, even like I say, quantum physics is about perception, right? And we always say that we use our five senses. That's something we know. I have five senses and I use them. But you perceive them as five senses, but in actuality, you're only using one sense, right? And that
Hmm.
one sense is the sense of touch. That's it. You're like, what do you mean? I don't. No, no, no. I mean, you touch, your sense of touch you smell with your nose, right? The molecules have to go in and they have to touch those fibers, and for you to even smell anything, for you to taste something, it has to touch your tongue. For you to hear something, it has to touch your eardrum. For you to see something, it has to touch your irises. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
really and truly, all we're doing is going around touching with just in different ways. So in actuality, we're only using one sense. So now that makes you say, well, if I'm only using one sense, what's my other senses? Well, maybe your other senses are telekinesis. Maybe your other senses are telepathy. Maybe those senses that we think aren't there because we think we're so involved with all these senses we're using. But like, well, no, you're just kind of using one. Just one.
I think
It's
I
all
think
in how you perceive things.
this is absolutely amazing. It sounds so like sci-fi,
Yeah.
from one here where you actually was involved with the Alice Project, and you could see the name Alice is you said 17 miles in each direction, and Alice, which is the division you worked at Wayne State University, is on the right of that circular thing. And this is in Sweden. You said it covers Sweden, France, and something else, I believe.
Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland.
Switzerland.
And it's so large. And on one side is France, and the other side is Switzerland.
That's amazing. And
It
this
is
was what they
basically
were
science
working on.
fiction.
And you said, and
Yeah.
this is what they were working on. That whole area was to build this structure.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. It's quite amazing. It's something that we should be paying attention to, but they don't put a spotlight on it because they don't want us to start asking the kind of questions that people will start asking, even though it's now we're getting to a point where people are starting to become aware, but of what we're doing at CERN and with the Large Hadron Collider. And they're starting to become more interested, because when we first started this, I'm gonna tell you, the rumors were flying out of CERN about what we were doing. There were rumors that people from the future were coming back to try to stop us from doing this, because they were afraid that what we were going to do. I mean, these were the crazy kind of rumors that were going on, but now to me, they don't sound as crazy as they did in the beginning.
That's amazing. And as far as this black hole you talked about, that is also in the
Mm-hmm.
reality of things too.
Yeah, yes, it is. And now that's amazing thing, because how are they going to explain now that you've been telling us all this time that nothing ever comes out of a black hole, and now, oh my goodness, all of a sudden you found a black hole that's just spitting stuff back out. Well, what's that about? And what is it spitting out? And is it spitting out what it ate, or is it spitting out something it ate before that? I don't know. I'm just saying the rules are just changing right before our eyes. It's like, we thought that was the case. Now we're like, oh no, throw that out. No,
And one of
yeah.
them is Dr. James Gate, that obviously added a whole different concept to the world of quantum physics too.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Very, very, very smart man. Very smart man also.
And he also proved
So can I
the African connection. Am I correct how you said that?
I'm sorry. Oh yes, he
You
made the connection between African symbolism.
yes. Is that what you were saying?
Yes. Yes, he made that connection. Now, a Caucasian person would never have made that connection, but Dr. Gates did. That's why he was there for a reason. He's there for a reason.
And this is what an idea of quantum numbers look like.
Yep. Doesn't is the fact that they exist. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. Like I say, you go down the rabbit hole when you start talking about quantum numbers, because the we think about quantum numbers was the fact when I was talking about our DNA, and that we have coded DNA and we have non-coded DNA. And our coded DNA is the DNA that we're all familiar with. We know how it works. You can see an animation of how it codes for protein, but listen to that word again, code. There's always some codes involved. Always codes, this code or that code. So the DNA codes. And so basically the ACTG, they only describe they only describe a very, very small part of our genome, of our genes. Only a very, very small part. There's a much larger part, over 90% of our genes, that we don't have any idea what they're about. And there was a time, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago or so, they would call these genes in our body that they don't know what they do, they would call them junk DNA. And they would say, well, we don't know what they do, so they're more than likely just some leftovers from some mutations that got us to where we are, and so they're just there for whatever from times passed on. And to me, that sounded like nature had created a junk closet for our stuff in our bodies, and says, oh, we don't need to just throw it in the closet. I'm like, no, I don't think nature
Nature
works
don't
like
operate
that.
like that. No, nature does not operate like that, for understanding. And I'm not even a
Right.
scientist or an environmentalist, but knowing nature as it does, there is always some systematic order in its design. That's how it is.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. And so what happened was, I don't know how long ago it was, but I'm almost sure it was a Harvard study that they did on junk DNA, and they said, oh, wait a minute, this is not quite true. There may be something to this, because what they said was, and this was amazing to me, they said that this DNA, this particular DNA, is not like our regular DNA. It didn't go for protein. They said it was like computer code again. It was like these genes were like, for instance, like for cancer, these genes were like, turn these two off and turn that one on, and you'll kill cancer. Two of these.
interesting.
So what's the code? What's the code? You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now you're saying that the all of this it has a purpose, and maybe we only use 10% of our brain, 10% of our DNA. You see what I'm saying? So maybe that's what's awakening. That's the other part of the code. That's the quantum part. That's the spiritual part. Whereas the part that we know is our physical. We mapped out our physical DNA, but our spiritual DNA, which makes us give us all of this life and all that, we can't figure that one out yet. But I think we're here now, where these things are coming together, and you can see that because it's not a real thing. It's more like a hologram.
I tell
So
you, let me say this, Audrey Rumbers. You know what's amazing? We haven't even talked one time about your amazing creation of argon pyramids. So I'm going to have you back probably at the beginning of next year around your birthday time in January. I mean, it's just amazing, this experience of being a part of actually constructing this huge machines that's finding the most invisible whatever it is that they're trying to find. And the question becomes, when they find it,
yeah,
what does that mean? What does that do? And it's almost that we are living almost in an alternate world, as strange as it sounds. And it's like us saying, well, are we
yeah,
really here, or were we somewhere else and just don't know it? And that's kind of scary when you think about that.
yeah, yes.
Well, let me say this. How can, well, this is how people can get in touch with you. And the one thing about you, you invite people to call you, so people can actually
Yes.
discuss this, because you like to go down the rabbit hole with this. So this is Audrey Rumbers, quantum metaphysician. Her contact number is 313
Because
75.
I know there are people like me who find it hard.
No, no, go right ahead. Go ahead. And you're right. They're right. There are people who will probably say, girl, something's wrong with you. I know people accused that something was wrong with me, but almost always there come a time where there's an understanding, and it seems like that time is coming. So this metaverse has a lot to
Yes,
do with its origins with the quantum quantum physics. And
and
this it could,
absolutely. It's kind of a Dow inside of a Dow inside of a Dow inside of a Dow. That's what we're living. Yeah, but yeah,
I don't
back
know.
to you.
Well, anyway, your website is audreynight.com. And in fact, if you want to see some of the most original, one of a kind, and that's all she makes, one of a kind pyramids. Um, and we didn't even talk not one iota about them. So people need to go to it, and also go to her Instagram site too, audreynight77. And please cash out for her to continue the work in her quantum research, because she is a researcher. She goes down the rabbit hole. The fact that you work there and has all those questions, I know you must have scared them. Like, who is this? We only hired you for one thing, and you coming up with scientific questions and whatnot based upon your own research. But please support her at $ Audrey 777 and whatnot. So any closing words before we go, young lady?
Well, basically, I just want to say that we're all more than we think we are, and it all depends how you see yourself. If you want to change the world, you can. If you want to change yourself, you can. It's just all up to you. It really is. Enjoy the ride.
I think that's amazing. And in light of this 21st century, we could be closer to more things than people realize. And one thing that's
For
always
sure, we are.
fascinated me, if there's so-called, as Carl Sagan used to say, billions and billions of stars in the universe, how could people here on Earth think that we're the only living entities out of all these billions of stars and billions of planets? How can that be?
Yeah,
You mean we
it
we
can.
Earthlings have gotten the rare privilege of, out of everything in space, we're the only one that is in existence in a life form? Really? I mean, just the common sense of
Well,
it.
obviously, and the government has just had what did they have? They had hearing on UFO. So obviously, it's not just us that believe that there are other possible beings out there besides
I
us.
think they're more than we might know. I think they're more than we
Yeah, for
might know. But
sure.
anyway, but welcome to the 21st century and the age of Aquarius. That's about all I can say, you know?
Yes.
So anyway,
Yeah.
please support my guest, Audrey Rumbers. Go to, and please, for those of you who would like to discuss this, and she is open for conversation, then give her a phone call at 313-758-1381. That's 313-758-1381. And one day we're going to work out these connections. And there's something happening with the energies, with the lag time, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I don't know. And this is three times.
Yes.
The fourth time will be the charm.
It
So that,
is, isn't it?
well, we're
I
going to try.
watch your other shows. They go so smoothly, no problem. As soon as I sit down, they go haywire. But that's okay. We're not going to let anything stop us.
We're going to keep it up till we get it right. But this time when I bring you back, we're going to put a kind of like a synthesis on the quantum physics, but then also again bring to the viewers who may have missed it these amazing pyramids that you make that are absolutely one of a kind, that's protective, that people, I mean, some of the things you've given in testimony, it sounds absolutely amazing as you
We'll
are
have to do a
yourself.
show on
Okay?
that. Yeah, on the stories. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So Audrey, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And pardon the confusion and drama getting started, but it got off to a good start and it ended on a good note. All righty.
Great.
Okay. So everybody, I want to thank you very much. This is the number to call Audrey Rumbers, please. 313-758-1381. And her website is audronite.com. Go there and also go to her IG and see some of those amazing pyramids, all handcrafted. And please show support by sending a Cash App donation to Audronite 777. To all of those of you who was forgive the late start, it was I thought Mercury retrograde was over. It seemed like something else is going on too. But anyways, that's the beauty of live television or live media. Okay, so everybody, I want everybody to have a very nice day, and don't forget to please pick up a copy, or not pick up a copy, but sign up. For those of you who haven't signed on for my free monthly newsletter for October, there it is. It's interesting. We're almost halfway through the month now, and November's right around the corner. But for those of you, just go to my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com, and please like, please share, please subscribe, please hit the notice button, and to the Williams family in Chicago, Eli in Washington, and everybody from all over the place, all over the country and outside the country too. Thank you very much for tuning in, because this is something where you could have been doing something more with your time on a Monday or Wednesday. But thanks for joining us. And we're going to have more, and we're going to have her back too, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But in the meantime, have a nice day, and we'll see you on Wednesday.